Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Christina Langell. Earlier this week, Senate Republicans filed a few subpoenas against Governor Josh Shapiro, questioning $1 million that was spent at his private residence to increase security. And this is something that has been percolating in media reports, but it came to a head, legally speaking, just this past Monday when these subpoenas were officially filed. So tell us more about it, Christina. What is this all about?
So, as I'm sure everyone knows, there was an attack on the governor's mansion in Harrisburg, which is not his personal residence. That is the state's governor's residence. After that, and that was the attacker, pled guilty, and within that pled guilty to attempted murder. So there was an attack on the governor's life. As a result, they went ahead and did some security upgrades at his private home in Abington in Montgomery County, which is just outside of Philadelphia. Those were presumably to make his house safer. I don't think there's a lot of detail on what exactly they did, but that's what the subpoenas are requesting.
And this committee in general has a history of requesting subpoenas against administration officials, looking for specific information that has been used, whether, I suppose, inappropriately, depending on what party is requesting it. This came from the Senate Intergovernmental Operations Committee, which that's a mouthful, but it's a lesser committee. But this seems to be the forum where Senate Republicans have been dealing with these questions and issues. So it looks like Senator Jarrett Coleman was the one who was speaking about it. What did he have to say?
So for him, he says that this is just a matter of transparency, that if you're going to spend $1 million of the state's money, that it should be something that the General Assembly sees. So that is why he issued the subpoenas. The subpoenas are to the Pennsylvania State Police, Commissioner Christopher Paris. And those actually asked not only for details about the security assessment on his home, but also for body cam footage of the police during, I think, about a 2-month span. I'm not sure how that will factor into what they're looking at, but it was noteworthy to me. The subpoenas for the township for Abington are, looking for those records of the permit applications and the discussions, because most of the time, when you're having construction done, you have to go speak in front of your township or whatever it is in Pennsylvania, depending on where you live, and to get permission. So they want records of that. Then there was a third subpoena issued to a charter flight company. And I think that one was entirely separate, but listed amongst the three. That goes back to an ongoing point of interest that Senator Coleman has with the governor's travel, and specifically he's gone into detail about where the governor flies and when he's using PSP versus charter, and what the purpose of his flights are, whether it has to do with, him as a person and an individual going somewhere, or if it has to do with official duties. I'm sure this will only ramp up as we go into an election season, because then you always have to determine, well, are you acting as the governor, or are you acting on behalf of your campaign to, be reelected as governor?
Coleman is an interesting senator. He's newer to the legislature. He actually replaced Senator Pat Brown in an upset in the primary election several years ago. Pat Brown is now in the administration as Shapiro's revenue secretary, and he was always kind of seen as rather moderate on the side of Republicans. And he has a brilliant, I suppose you would say, financial mind in that way. So Coleman really upset him in a time that was moving towards the more right-wing conservative Trumpian side of the spectrum. So Coleman's kind of continued that banner since he's taken office. And you're right, it's interesting given the timing of the midterm elections. And so we'll have to keep an eye on it. These subpoenas can take a while to work through the system, right?
Yes. And it's an interesting question too, when we think about something like, well, what would a construction project cost? What what does security cost? I mean, if you own a home or you've ever looked into the prices I mean, right now with inflation, things are incredibly high. So for me as a taxpayer, I think, well, how much would it cost me to do anything? And then just orders of magnitude higher because it's the government and things just seem to cost more with the government. But whether or not this is a practical and legitimate expense is definitely for the assembly to determine. But I think if we're seeing, this sort of granularity down to a $1 million expense, we're definitely gearing up for an interesting year in Pennsylvania.
Right. I think because it was connected to his personal residence, that is really what is raising the eyebrows here. Now, I'm sure that there is a very salient argument that the governor, who's already had an attempted murder against him, is going to need extra security given that, and that what has been done should be protected to an extent so that those security measures work, and it's not a waste of taxpayer money in that sense.
We spend a lot of money to keep Mar-a-Lago secure. I know that much.
Yes, we do. This is something, and I mean, presidents have Secret Service protection for the rest of their lives. So this isn't an unusual situation in the sense that we do protect officials, particularly the top official in the state, right? So there's that. And then if you want to open the can of worms that is involved with construction and labor costs in Pennsylvania, particularly when it comes to the government and what those contracts likely include, it's hard to say or see exactly where Coleman is going with this, but it is a bit of an expedition into finding out not just what he spent the money on, but who benefited from that money particularly. So of course, we will keep an eye on it, see where the taxpayer's expense falls in this, and to keep up with it along with us, follow us at thecentersquare.com/Pennsylvania.